In 2012, a series of 3 game camera photos changed the life of Craig and Barb Sulk forever. After capturing what some believe was a Sasquatch, the team from Finding Bigfoot came out to investigate their property. Since that episode, the evidence has been piling up, and as of 2020, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society has been hard at work to document and capture it. 1:18 p.m. Friday. We're going to give the Hyden Adventure tour to the campout in just a little bit here. It's the first time I've done the tour, so we hope that I hope that I don't mess it up. And hopefully I remember all the stuff that I'm supposed to know. So, the tour that you're about to get is the original tour that Craig gave. I do have it on video from him. We do sell copies of it if you want to see the tour from Craig. Some of this stuff I'm very familiar with. Some of it I'm not so familiar with, so please bear with me because this is the first time I'm giving this tour. And then I will be covering some of the other stuff that we've done that wasn't part of Craig's tour as well as we go. So, any questions? July 2015, the porta potty that is here now originally sat back kind of by where those cutouts are. And one day they came out and there was all muddy, like the porta potty had been assaulted by something, had like tried to get in it or pawed on it and stuff. And Craig investigated this and determined that they do not believe that it's bear. There are a lot of black bear on the property. They bait black bear, they hunt black bear here. But black bear only stand up just so tall on their hind legs. And if you look at the end of the field, we'll get to that in a little bit, you can see the cutouts that are down there are 2-scale cutouts of trail cam pictures that were taken on this property. So even before, well, I'll only back up and tell you about that. So before any of this ever happened, Craig and Barb bought this as hunting property. So they had trail cams all over the property so that they could, monitor the different animals that come through and keep track of them. And
what year did they acquire the property?
92. 92?
Oh,
Okay. 92 or 93.
so
Okay.
215 was the first time things started to happen, or before?
2012.
Okay.
Well, things had been see, Craig and Barb didn't really pay much attention to Bigfoot and stuff on the property prior to that. It wasn't really on their mind or anything like that. They were out here hunting, that's what they did,
And they
so
didn't
they
live here at the time? They didn't live here, they just used it as a vacation?
They did. Yep.
Okay.
They actually owned 86 acres, and they owned when you came in, there's a little trailer that's on the property kind of next door. They used to live there. And then they moved the cabin and bought the cabin and had it placed on the property, and then they moved there and sold off that little 6 acres over there to the people that live there now. But they've had this 80 acres since 92.
We just never paid any attention to any squat signs of any sort until we saw that, until we captured the picture. And then we were aware of things. Started looking for things and we're more aware. What is this?
We can see
There's some muddy, like where it's scratched.
mud, and then we see
Yep.
dents.
You see this here? Like something was trying to paw and get into the door here.
Yep.
And he believes that that Bigfoot and stuff was seeing people come and go into it and stuff. And so he came over to try and investigate and see what was going on. And this makes more sense with the fact that the same time that this happened was it the night before. No, this was the night of. And then that day, you got the 17-inch indentions in the grass, these footprints that were walking from back by the pond.
Right.
So it was Craig's belief that whatever did this had come through the pond, which we'll see in a little while back there, come through the pond, got all muddy, came up, left the footprints down Bigfoot Boulevard over there, which we'll see in a second, and then came up and assaulted the porta potty.
Yeah.
And that's why there's the muddy footprints.
Yeah, it doesn't lock from the outside. It's just
Right.
a matter
Correct.
of pulling it.
Yep.
Can I?
So-
May I?
Sure.
He said he had pulled some hairs off
Yes.
of it as well.
Oh.
I talked to you about that, right? Remember at the convention? Real brief.
Yep.
He said he had them.
I've
And
heard
he-
it from Craig. Yep.
He put them in a book, and he said he'd be goddamned.
Yep.
He went in there and he couldn't find them.
He cannot.
And he goes, I don't misplace things like
Nope.
that. But he did say it didn't look like a bear hair because he knows what they look like. You guys got plenty.
Yep,
He said it was really weird, long hair and
We've
curly
never
black.
found him since.
Yeah.
We have not found him since.
I
He
just-
knows where-
Doctors don't like
It's strange,
you
man.
taking things.
But it's like, where the heck did they
It's-
go?
they're
I just
not-
don't.
he
These
put 'em
things
in a
just don't
Ziploc
disappear, right?
bag and-
It's freaky.
They do, though.
It's freaky.
So this is basically why you guys are all here today. Why we're all here. Why Caps is here. Why Craig was here. In 2012, May 9th, Craig captured a series of 3 pictures on his game camera. And the middle one is what caught his attention. Now, if this picture would have just been one picture, probably wouldn't have even caught anybody's attention or even given it a second look. But the fact that you have 3 pictures in sequence within about a minute apart, I think they're 30 seconds? Minute apart? About a minute apart, yep. And when Craig first saw these, he started flipping through them, and he noticed that there's this weird spot in the middle of it. And I'm sure you all have seen it. You've looked at it. It's right there. And it is not in either of the other pictures. So whatever was there and gone within a matter of 2 minutes. So he kept flipping back and forth through these, flipping back and forth. And finally somebody says, you know what that is? That's a Bigfoot. And it took quite a bit of time before he finally came around to the fact that maybe it is. And he ended up sending it in to watch an episode of Finding Bigfoot. And at the end it says, if you have any evidence or anything, feel free to send it in. So Craig sent it in at 11 o'clock at night.
Something like that.
Yep. And by 9 o'clock the next morning or so, right away in the morning, Finding Bigfoot had already replied and said, we want to come out there.
We're coming.
Basically, all of these pictures here are the same as your cutouts down there. The person cutout right next to Hyden is Craig, in the same position that the Hyden picture is in. Make sense? So Craig was 6'3", 300 pounds. And Craig, kneeling, is smaller than Hyden. But Barb wanted to come and walk back here instead one day. So Craig went out to set up the sign, and Barb started walking back on her own. And when Craig started coming back, he realized that she was a lot farther in than he expected her to be at the time. And when he got back here, he found that she had already made it all the way back here. And she said that as she was walking in, she heard a deer, but it wasn't a deer, from one side of the trail, and again then from the other side of the trail in response. And what they believe is that because they broke their routine of driving in together, that Bigfoot wasn't expecting them to be coming in here and figured that they should have been driving in like they normally were. So it was warning each other, hey, something's different, something's off, this isn't right, keep an eye out, she's walking in. So later that day, they're sitting up at the carport where we were just now. There used to be a leaning tree. It's kind of overgrown now, but there was a big leaning tree up there, 91 foot tall, and it had tipped over and it was stuck in the branches of another tree. So it wasn't going anywhere, right? Follow me? It's wedged up in there. And that day, after she had walked back here on her own, she's up at the carport, they're over there, and this tree comes crashing down. So in order for that tree to have fallen, it had to be pushed back out and then fall into the ground. So something had to, and it was not windy at all that day, so they say. And there was no, storms, no activity, nothing, just a nice day like today, light breeze, whatever. So there's no reason why this tree would have gotten pushed out of there, tipped over, and then crashed down to the ground. So what they believe is, hey, you guys shouldn't be walking in here on your own. You're messing around, you're not doing what you're normally doing. Stop that. So that's what they believe. So back there, there's a little what does he call it? Doesn't say. What's his fancy? The knob. That's it.
I remember stupid stuff.
Yeah, he's got the name for it. There's a knob back there.
Yeah.
Right, and he believed after that day that you don't go back in this corner of the property because that's their area. They obviously don't want you back there, so you stay out of it. So one day his friend goes, we should go back by that knob. So him and his friend take a walk back out by that knob, and Barb was up at the carport by the gift shop and stuff. So they came around the other side of the pond and started coming back up this track, or this roadway here. And when they're coming up, they look down, and on the ground is a 12 3/4 inch wet track. And this wet track, Craig never had a cell phone or anything on him. And Barb's phone she left up at the carport up there. So his friend took a picture of this track. They called Barb and the other people over there back here. And so his friend snapped a couple pictures. After he took the couple pictures, his phone died. Completely just clunked out. Couldn't use it. But this was the first time, the aha moment for Barb, because up until that point, she always thought, oh, you know, Bigfoot, sure, okay, whatever. And when she saw that track literally dry up in front of her eyes, and what else could have made it? You know, to have this big footprint right there on the ground, fresh, something was right there. And that's when she finally started believing that, you know, this was really happening. So this also is where those series of indentions, the 17-inch tracks, were found the day after the porta potty had been assaulted. And the porta potty was kind of straight back from you guys right now at the time when it was messed with. So they believe that whatever came from the pond, like I had said earlier, got all wet, came up the dirt track here, came around, messed with the porta potty.
Oh.
So Craig always believed that when they're sitting up here at base camp, like we will later, these things come, and they come from over there, and they come all the way around and up into this area here. And when we first started in Memorial Day weekend of last year, he had told us that. So we based a lot of our stuff on that, going, okay, well, you know, it's your property, we'll believe you, you know, and everything. And throughout last year, we've come to find out, they start back there, and they move around and come up into here. So, Craig used to have trail cams all over the property, as we said. And in 2018, I believe, he did a series of experiments with trail cams on the property. And it was a very, it had a lot of rules, you know, to this fact of how many days the trail cam would be deployed, the batteries had to be replaced every time, you know, it was a very strict regiment of this is the experiment that he was going to do. And I believe it was that tree right there that the trail cam was placed on. It's not there anymore, but I think that's the right one. And it was shooting up kind of through here where this is now cut all out. And it managed to capture this trail camera picture. And I have gone into this picture and I have blown it up. I have enhanced it and everything. And there is, I have the other pictures for comparison as well. So I have overlaid the original pictures that were shot there, and I have put this picture in there. And there's definitely a silhouette shape in that picture. And Craig wasn't ready to believe or admit that this is a Sasquatch or something there, but there's definitely something in that picture at the time.
Now, the cameras that he put up at this time, those were triggered for motion, or they
Correct, motion.
Okay.
Yep. And you get obviously you get some false triggers, a bird flies through or something, but for whatever reason, because that's too far away for any of his cameras to work. So anything that was over there just happened to get triggered. So it wasn't like that thing triggered the cameras. So what happened was Craig came back here a couple days later, and actually this would have been, what's the date on that? I got a picture. That would have been June of 2019, and then they came back out here in August of 19. I think it was him and his nephew, Nathan, came out here, and they put Nathan up there in the same spot, and they tried to recreate the picture. So it's motion sensor. So Craig is standing over here, waving in front of the picture with Nathan up on the hill. And your first picture up here is the first picture that triggered at the time. And you can see Nathan is right there, just kind of bent over trying to go up the hill, so you can see how big this thing is at the time. Okay? And then this bottom picture was the next picture that was taken, and it's the only other picture that was taken that day. So while Craig's standing there for about 15 minutes taking these pictures, this one and this one were the only ones that were taken. And for whatever reason, if you look, here's the pickup truck here,
Yeah.
and Craig, and this one is cut with part of the pickup truck there and part of the pickup truck there. See that? So this is the pickup truck here, and Craig, and then the very next picture, and the only other picture it took, it split the pickup truck on both sides. And there's this weird line where this tree is here, and it's cut out and moved. Copy of the...
You ever seen that on a trail cam picture do that? I just thought it was a glitch. Maybe. What do you think of that?
I don't know. On a film negative, if the film doesn't advance far enough, you can have that where it'll take the double picture, and some of them will do that. But this isn't film. This is digital.
Shouldn't be able to do that.
So there's no way that... I mean, obviously there's a way because it did it, but it's weird that it happened that way.
Like interference almost, right?
So next up, 2017, so this would have been prior to this picture being taken. Barb, you all kind of, when you came in, there was that big, kind of, maybe you can see it yet, but there's that big tank, like a plastic hunting blind tank over there. That used to be back here, and I'll show you in a minute where it was. So Barb used to, that's her hunting blind. She used to hunt back here. And so one day when she's coming out of here, it would have been in, doesn't say, by the book. It's in the book. Obviously it had to be in winter or fall because she's out hunting. So I want to say it was like November. She's back here hunting, and based on the trail cam pictures from the day, they know that it was like 30 some degrees out here at the time. As she's walking out 2 nights in a row, she hears something like getting thrown into the pond. And the reason that's important, why it's 30 degrees, is that means there's no frogs. So you know that it's not like a frog jumping into the water. And Barb says, I know what it was. It was something was throwing rocks into the pond back here. Barb has never really had a problem coming back here.
Is that a gunshot?
I think that was gunshots.
Could be. Yeah. I was waiting to see how many there was. But yeah, so she used to come back here, and she doesn't believe that it was frogs because of the temperature, and she doesn't think that they'd be out at that time of year. And it was just them letting her know that, you know, okay, you're done, get out, you know. So, and right back here, you'll see is the pond.
You said Barb didn't have a problem coming back here.
Barb didn't have a problem coming back here, right? She even when we've sat out here, and Craig says, well, all the Sasquatch activity's back here, and Barb goes, well, why don't we go sit back there? And Craig goes, Craig was, you know, he was a big guy, but he was afraid of a lot of the stuff here.
Yeah,
with good reason, because he's had activity, and he just was worried, and he wanted to keep coming back here, and didn't want us coming back here after dark and that, but...
Well, and respectful to them.
Yeah, it's their area. He wanted to stay out of it.
Yeah.
Leave them have it.
So these barrels they use for bait, okay? So they would fill these with donuts or whatever and stuff, and they would put these out here for the bears and that. And then right back there, you can kind of see there's like a metal railing and stuff. That's where her hunting blind used to be. So she used to go back there and to hunt. We're not going to go back there. But so one day, Craig was out here hunting. And he heard the sound. That was pathetic, but you get the idea.
Can you do it again?
Of one of these barrels being tipped over. And he got a really bad headache. And he says that you can even ask Barb, Craig does not get sick. He does not get headaches, he does not get migraines, he does not, you know, get nasal or anything. But whatever happened while he was out here was so bad that it was just this severe pain in his temples and nasal area and stuff. Which is what we believe is that Sasquatch can do infrasound. And infrasound is a very low frequency of audio that can cause you to have headaches and stuff like that and problems like in that area. So if whatever was out here was projecting infrasound towards Craig to get his attention, to get him out of here and stuff, that would be a reasoning for that. And Ma has actually experienced that out here as well when she was sitting up at base camp one night, or right before we had started our investigation, she got a really bad headache and stuff like that, and then she doesn't have that kind of experience or anything. So when Craig finally did come out of there, he found this barrel out here, but it wasn't like this. It was like this. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is this barrel is open on top, okay? And the barrel was sitting, both barrels were sitting here like this. The barrel was knocked over, and instead of having the open end knocked away like you would expect, something had to pick it up and throw it down for the open end to be this way.
Was there food in it at the time?
I don't know. I don't believe so. From my understanding of the story, and it's in the book, you own the book, go read the book.
I did read the
From my understanding, the barrels were empty at the time because they would have just come out and dumped it and then left them lay here. So, and we found out through our investigation, Craig had trail cameras on that tree there. We put out apples on here last year. The apples would disappear, nothing took them on the trail camera. What we found out is the trail camera only takes motion to here.
Oh.
So anything that came over there was out of the trail cam's range of motion. And we found that out by walking closer and closer back and forth out here and seeing when it would trigger the camera. So we figured that it only takes pictures about 3/4 of the way across this open field. So anything that was coming over here to mess with these barrels was never getting triggered. Questions?
Is that the case for all of those cameras for their range of pickup?
Different cameras have different range. You can actually set them different.
Okay.
And Craig was not very technically advanced. If it was possible to shoot it farther, he didn't do it. I would assume he had it triggered as far out as it would. They're usually about 30 feet. And especially at night, the range is a little bit less even. So typically you want it right on top of whatever you're trying to take pictures of. But every camera, and he had different brands out here because he was testing different things in that. At one point, there was about 30 cameras on this property between his and mine, and we had a lot. There wasn't much area on this whole property that wasn't covered. Which brings me to my next story, since it's nice and shady.
Wait,
Yeah.
question. So did you move the barrels?
We did not. I actually put a trail cam on my own right here.
Oh, okay.
And then we found out that it was raccoons taking the apples. So, sorry to spoil that. Yeah. So, as everybody knows, and based on the stories that we've had today, Sasquatch doesn't get caught on trail cameras, right? The 2 trail cameras that we've already talked about, the Sasquatch just happened to be in the picture when it got triggered. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So something else triggered it and he just happened to be walking through. It's a lot of common knowledge that in the Bigfooting world and stuff that if they see a trail camera, they'll mark it. So they'll know exactly how far out that IR flash and out how far it is before that camera triggers. And they'll put logs on the ground at people's houses, like for motion sensors, like out on, like the lights on your deck and stuff. People have found logs or rocks lined up in a circle around the back of their house going, this is where I get caught, this is safe. And they'll see that out on these different properties where people go out to investigate or that have them on their properties, a lot. You find that kind of information. So we believe that, if he knows that they're there. So last year, the CAPS team set up our own experiment. Obviously, a trail camera can take a picture, 100, 200, 300 feet out, and you can still see what's in that picture. But you can't trigger it that far out. So instead of setting up our motion cameras to do motion sensor capture, we set them on time lapse. So all of our cameras, except for certain ones on the property, all of Craig's remained motion sensor. All of ours were time lapse. So every 5 minutes, we took a picture, whether something was there or not. We captured, I think it was 4,000 pictures a week, something like that. I don't remember, but per camera even. So we had all these pictures we had to go through. And that seems like a daunting task. But you need to realize that all of these pictures are the exact same picture, with the exception of like a tree blowing in the breeze or something. So you can look through them pretty quickly. So we had a camera set up over there on that tree, aimed this way. Just for the sake of, obviously things come through here. We know that they're in the area and stuff. So August of last year, we not only had that camera set up, but we also took a night hike back here. We set up a thermal imaging camera that recorded video. And for you that were in Mountain, you know this story. So it was right back there that we had the thermal imaging camera. And straight back along here, you kind of see there's a log way back there. Me and one of my other investigators walked back here, and we went and sat on that log for about a half hour. And it got to the point where we heard 3 things, we believe, moving around us. Now we left, not because we're afraid or because, we wanted to get out of the area, but because we knew, okay, they're here, they're going to follow us. So we came out from back here, walked all the way out straight down the road towards the grill area. By the time we got to the grill area, Craig and my mom were sitting at base camp, and Craig sits up in the chair, spins around as something runs through the woods right on the other side of the base camp there. And we assumed that it was whatever one of them was back here was running up to catch up with us. So we have that on audio. We don't have any video or anything of that. 20 minutes later, we have 2 things happen back here though. Number one, and I honestly couldn't tell you the exact time frame of this, but they're within 5 minutes of each other. And the reason I can't give you an exact time is because my thermal imager doesn't have a timestamp. So I know when I was back here, when we walked out, and I know the timestamp on the trail camera. Other than that, I couldn't tell you the exact, but it's within 5 minutes of each other. So for those of you who came to the mountain show, you see something crawl across the field back here. And at first look, it appeared to be like a raccoon or something small. But like a good investigator, we came back out here, recreated it, and whatever is moving across that field is somewhere between my size and Craig's. So this is a large creature. It's not a bear. It doesn't move like a bear. It's definitely not a deer. It doesn't move like a porcupine or a raccoon. It's not a fox, not a coyote. I don't know what's left. But whatever this is in the video appears to have like an oscillating motion. And it looks like, if you ever seen an otter run, like they kind of hump when they run and stuff, they got that oscillation. Mm-hmm. It looks like that, but it's not shaped like that kind of animal. It's way too big. We realized that if you get down on the ground and army crawl, your butt pops up in the air as you do this. So it is my belief that Bigfoot came through, realized that he was on camera, thought, screw you, I'm going to crawl underneath your camera, you're not going to see me, crawled through, got up, and stepped out this tree, right here. Came out through here because within a 5-minute range of something crawling through back there, there's the silhouette of something standing just like this behind this tree. So we came back out here and we put Craig in that exact same spot. Whatever is in that picture is about 6'3" and about the same size as Craig, height-wise, and even build. So it was a large 6-foot-something thing there. And in all of the other 1,000 pictures that are from that day, there's nothing there.
There's a lot more to the tour, but most of it we've already covered in other episodes, including the original Hyden photo site, the teepee structure, and coming up later this season, the Rich Daniels encounter. Hopefully you enjoyed your tour of some of the past activity, and now it's on to the next experiment.